Chapter 20, Seven of Wands. Since nobody was speaking to him, he read out a deck of cards from his pocket. He was going to practice some sleight of hand card tricks, and when he looked up, he noticed the twins. What were their names? It's Hannah and Anna, reminded Anna. They were the 9-year-old nieces of Kain. Hannah and Anna had their mother Stacy's blonde hair and their grandpa's ashen eyes. Did you always want to be a magician? Asked Hannah. No, it was just something that I did with my best friend, said Oberon, thinking of his first boyfriend. He taught me most of the tricks I know, and over time I invented a few of my own. Can you pull a coin out of my nose? Asked Hannah. I can do you one better, said Oberon, pulling out coin after coin out of Anna's ear. She clapped with the light once she had 8 quarters, 7 dimes, and 2 pennies. And this was all the pocket change that Oberon had on hand, so he couldn't summon more coins even if he wanted to. And he sighed wearily while he thought of the good old days. How did you do it? Asked Anna. He didn't sleep. He is wearing a tank top, noticed Anna. And where did you hide so many coins? Asked Hannah, taking Oberon's hand to examine it. And try as they might, they couldn't figure out the trick. And Oberon performed all the sleight of hand coin tricks to amuse the girls, and soon he had an audience of 2 other kids. The older boy was Kyle, the brother of the twins, and the other kid was Jeffrey, and he was the son of Jack's girlfriend, and Jeffrey's mother was the only person in the room who had issues with Oberon, and she kept buzzing about Oberon in order to make certain that he wouldn't do or say anything weird to her kid. And Oberon sighed with frustration when he became aware of Lysandra, and here was another woman who suffered the same condition as his parents. He moved his performance to the center of the living room, and now nobody could say that he was up to no good. And dinner time came, and the family gathered around the table to gorge themselves, and the only persons who talked were Lysandra and her son Jeffrey. And Jeffrey attempted to converse with Anna and Hannah. If you're talking, then you're not chewing, said Anna with her mouth full of food. We can talk later, said Hannah. Your food is getting cold. Okay, said Jeffrey before pecking at his food sadly. And normally the girls would talk to him during dinner, and why was today so different? Anna finished her meal, so she turned to face Jeffrey, and she put her head uncomfortably close before asking, so what was so important that couldn't wait till after dinner? Nothing, said Jeffrey, turning his gaze, and I forgot what I was gonna say. And Kain brought a dessert, fruit tart, strawberry crisp ice cream, and key lime pie mousse. And he said the children first, followed by Oberon, and the fact that he was served before the other adults made him feel important. The others were served in order of importance, starting with Grandma Esther, followed by Uncle Gan, Jack, Elizabeth, and all of the others. Conversation resumed with dessert, and Kyle explained. Back when Grandpa was alive, we would eat dinner like so, and the main course was quiet time, and during dessert we were allowed to talk. Okay, said Jeffrey sadly, and he asked with a trembling voice, But isn't your grandpa, Dad? We know, and this is just a weird way of remembering him, and we say things that he would say, and we abide by his rules during dinner time, explained Kyle. And by acting like he's around, we miss him a little less, you know? Okay, said Jeffrey, still not understanding it, and he was going to need his mother's help to comprehend the Sanson family's morning ritual. The dinner party slowly died down, and Uncle Gan and his brood were the first to leave, and they should have had school tomorrow, and Lysandra attempted to send her son with them, but the boy was not in the mood to spend night with the twins, and she was forced to return home with her son, and Grandma Esther left to roost in her bedroom while Jack left the house in order to go jam with his bandmate, and more than playing music, he wanted to discuss Oberon with his friend. When Oberon found himself alone with Kain, he said with a naughty smile, Alone at last. I just remember my aunt finished installing a new drawer in my bedroom, and it will have more than enough room for your socks and undergarments, said Kain, making his way to the bedroom. Kain, hello, and what part of Alone at last don't you understand, said Oberon, folding his arm. I know what you mean, but by Alone at last, said Kain dryly. He entered the bedroom to tidy up, and he opened the first drawer to place inside Oberon's undergarments, and he neatly folded them before pressing them down. And with the socks he had a more difficult time, and most were missing their other half, and he matched whatever sock he could find, and the rest he rolled up into different colored balls. And in the third drawer he stashed Oberon's toys, and the phallic objects he organized by length and the others by color. And Oberon watched his proceeding with mild amusement, and his past lovers would either comment or ignore the items, and this was the first time he had seen someone make a serious attempt at organizing them. "Did you find any that you liked?" asked Oberon, wrapping his arms around Kain's waist. "I don't know," said Kain, biting his lower lip, and he had never used them on himself or anyone else, therefore he felt nervous about the new experience. "But you have seen them before." No, he had never used them on himself. "But you have seen them before," asked Oberon. "Yes, Eugenia will sometimes ask me to get creative with her collection, and her collection is much bigger and varied than yours, Oberon, and then she would get frustrated because I kept hesitating and asking for feedback every 5 minutes," said Kain before sighing wearily. "I am jealous," Kain protested Oberon. "Every 5 minutes, is Eugenia this, is Eugenia that?" I don't talk about her all the time," said Kain shyly. "When we are together, the only name I want to hear coming out of your mouth is mine," said Oberon. "All right, mine it is," joked Kain. "You know what I mean," barked Oberon, "and I got in that shower and remove the stench of meat and come back here in 5 minutes." Kain went to do as he was told, and he was expecting for Oberon to enter the shower, and when he didn't, he sighed wearily before departing the shower. And Kain was a creature of water, and he felt most at ease when surrounded by liquid. And he sighed wearily before trying to guess what Oberon had planned for him. And the first time he slept with Oberon, he hadn't been afraid because he was acting dominant. And now that Oberon wanted to take charge, he felt frightened by the unknown. He left the shower dripping wet, and he frowned when he saw that Oberon wasn't there. And Oberon was showering in Jack's bathroom, and Kain sat on the bed, and he waited for Oberon to come. And he looked at the time before frowning. It was almost 12. And Oberon arrived wrapped up in a bathrobe, and his wet feet left little marks around the way. "Do you not know how to dry yourself?" asked Kain wearily. "I do," said Oberon dryly, and he lowered his bathrobe to reveal his shoulder. And Kain, instead of pouncing on his mate, went to the kitchen to get a mop, and he mopped out Oberon's footprints before returning to the bedroom. "God, you're such a neat freak," said Oberon, folding his arm. "Call it what you will, but I am not going to risk having my grandma fall and break her neck just because you couldn't bother to dry your feet," hissed Kain. "I'm sorry, geesh," said Oberon in frustration. "Do you still want to sleep with me?" asked Kain. "I'm no longer in the mood," lied Oberon. "Suit yourself then," said Kain before changing into his pajamas. And he set the alarm before going to bed. And Oberon too went to bed, and all the while he kept hoping and waiting for Kain to pounce on him, and when it didn't happen, he closed his eyes before falling asleep, and that night he had a night terror about being thrown out of his house. "And Dad, please," begged Oberon in the nightmare, "don't throw me out. If you want to fool around, you will not do it in my house. Is that understood?" barked Francis. "Dad, please listen to me," repeated Oberon. "Listen to me." "What? I'm listening," said Kain, waking up. And Oberon awoke from his nightmare around 3 a.m., and he snuggled deeper into Kain's strong embrace. And at times like these, he drew much comfort from the warm body sleeping beside him. And his arms curled into Kain's pajama, and he wanted to touch, to melt, to feel alive once again. And Kain stood still while he allowed Oberon to do as he will. "So if you're not in charge, you don't get inspired," asked Oberon while playfully biting Kain's earlobe. "And please don't bite me so close to my neck," said Kain as his body was suddenly overcome with a trembling feet. "Oh, I forgot," sighed Oberon with frustration. "Anything else I should avoid?" "Don't hold my hands over my head," said Kain. "And is there something I did you didn't like?" "I don't like to take it where the light don't shine," said Oberon, resting his head on top of Kain's chest. "But Arden told me you really liked it," said Kain shyly. "And you believe that true? Man, you're dumb," laughed Oberon. "Yes, I am dumb," agreed Kain. "Hey, don't put on that face, and what I really meant to say was that you are," said Oberon. "Credulous," said Kain. "You are a what?" asked Oberon. "I believe easily what others tell me," said Kain, patting Oberon's hair. "That's good to know," said Oberon, smiling warmly. And that night Kain allowed Oberon to take control, although he wasn't brave enough to try the toys. And Oberon made Kain feel many strange and wondrous things, but sometimes terrifying things as well. And when Oberon's instrument sliced through him, he felt shame and pain in equal parts, and he was also surprised and frightened by an unfamiliar sensation. And More than a month passed after this first bump on the road, and during the first week, Oberon was still on edge whenever he was in the presence of Jack and Grandma Esther, and he didn't know what to make of their politeness, and there was no affection but no hostility either. And by April 1st, Fools, he got used to the idea that this was how they were always going to treat him. It wasn't great, but it wasn't bad either. And as far as affection goes, he got more than enough for his doting boyfriend, and Kain was often hyper-focused on Oberon's mood, and if he looked unhappy, Kain would feed him and take him to dance, or he would offer to mate with him. And today, after getting off work, Oberon drove to Natasha's house in order to ask advice, and she made tea and cookies for her friend. "I think Grandma Esther and Papa Jack hate me," said Oberon, sighing. And laughing, she said, "And what do you expect? You only started officially dating Kain less than 2 months ago, and somehow you already weaseled yourself into his house. And they think you're a mooch." "I'm not a mooch," protested Oberon. "I just haven't been spending much because I need to pay the down on that nice condo." "That is all a bad look for you, my friend," said Natasha, sipping her judgmental tea. "And they're probably thinking, why is this mooch looking for an apartment if he already lives with Kain? And he's probably going to leave him as soon as his financial situation improves." "It is not as if I want to move out. I am quite comfortable living with Kain," said Oberon, stating a fact. He had all his needs met. What Kain lacked in experience, he met out with eagerness to please, and Oberon thought of Kain before reporting of his whereabouts, and he sat beside Natasha to take a selfie with her, and Natasha rose the middle finger before sticking her tongue out, and she did it so quickly that Oberon didn't notice that she had ruined the picture, so he just sent it, assuming that it was alright. Kain got the photograph, and Natasha's mocking expression didn't humor him. At least he knew where Oberon was, and as of lately he would get jealous of stars whenever Oberon wasn't within his line of sight. And Oberon had already cheated on him once. Well, it didn't count as cheating since Oberon had broken up with him. Kain arrived home around 4, and this gave him 1 hour to kill before starting dinner. And he showered before plopping himself on top of the couch with his PlayStation 2 and his laptop, and he was following a guide to recruit other non-humans from his Radiata story elf routes. And Oberon arrived half an hour later, and he saw Kain so hyper-focused on his game that he decided not to interrupt him. And he sat on the couch while he pondered what was so amusing about that game. And at the moment, Kain was running over the elf forest, talking and doing non-battle side quests, and Oberon found himself loudly yawning in spite of himself. "If you're bored, there's a TV in another room," said Kain, not bothering to see who was yawning. "Or I can just leave, seeing as though you found someone far more interesting than me," said Oberon in an exaggerated display of anger. And he was just pretending to be offended to see how Kain would react. "At least Gil loyally stays by my side once I win him over," Kain pointed to the lighthouse character in the party, "and he doesn't abandon me at a drop of a hat." "God, I was just half an hour late, and I even told you where I was," said Oberon, starting to get angry for real. "Forget about it. This is a stupid argument," said Kain, puffing with frustration. And he said his progress before turning off the game, and he was no longer in the mood to play. And he went to the kitchen to start dinner, and Oberon noticed that Kain had left his laptop unattended. This was his opportunity to snoop. The first thing he did was check the search history, and it only had the most recent search, Radiata Stories, How to Recruit All Non-Humans guide. And as someone who wasn't a gamer, he didn't understand why recruiting other than a human was important to Kain. And then he looked at the elf character, Gil. He was certainly handsome for a PS2 sprite. Was Kain into fairies? And Oberon shrugged his shoulders before thinking, "It isn't the weirdest fetish I have run into, although I could dye my hair green if it would make Kain more feisty." "I am going to run an errand," said Oberon, getting up. And Kain opened his mouth to ask about the errand, but he chose to remain silent. He was still in a mood, and Oberon drove to the nearby Publix in search of a green hair dye. And when he didn't find any, he returned home. And he appeared just in time for dinner, and Kain served everyone mechanically. And Jack and Esther and Oberon got a full meal while Kain just ate a salad with a bit of meat, and it was the bare minimum for maintaining his weight and his muscles. Alright, that's the end of that chapter. Bye-bye, and God bless. Bye-bye.